to the Cooler Women's Wellness Tribe, the podcast. Get comfortable, or get your walking shoes on, and let's get going. Hello, and welcome everybody back. I think we're now on episode 7, and I have a very exciting episode today. So I have a guest. For those of you listening to the podcast, obviously you can't see the guest. If you want to head over to YouTube, you can also watch the unedited version of our podcast as well today. So today I have with me the beautiful Susan. And Susan lives here in Dubai with me. She's been here for 5 years, not with me in the same house. I felt like that sounded a little bit weird when I say we both live in the same country. We don't live in the same house. She's originally from Ireland, and she is a professional intuitive tarot reader. So I was very excited when I reached out and Susan agreed to come on, and this is something which, and we've just had a little bit of chat before we started recording, that in the wellness industry, and I know a lot of my friends, and we've just said in our circles before we started recording, that tarot is becoming a thing, and Susan's going to talk a lot about this in a minute, so she's the expert. But I feel like a lot of my friends and myself were going to tarot. Obviously the spiritual world is opening up a little bit commercially, but people are going elsewhere for advice, for wellness. And Susan, just before this when we were chatting, has also told me that it can be used for health, so we're going to be probing her on that a little bit as well. And I do think that people are turning more to, it's not just what you see on the TV, or your nan's gone to see a tarot reader, and she comes home and she tells you that you're going to have 5 children, and it's something that you do. I don't know if anyone's ever gone to Blackpool. Yeah. So it's more than that. It's more than that. So yes, welcome, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So tell us a little bit more about yourself first, how you got into tarot, that kind of thing, before we get into the juicy parts.
Yeah. So yes, I'm an Irish tarot reader. I've always been someone that was quite spiritual, but I walked away from it. I wasn't really, something I had any, interest in a way that to work on it. It was just something that was always inside of me, and that was it. But at 30, I had the Great Awakening, as many people do, and spirituality became very important to me. And this is how tarot came into my hands. And I've always loved the cards. I've always had a respect for tarot. I've always had a fascination for tarot. And each time I had a tarot reading, I was told that I was a reader, but I was like, no, I don't care. I want to know if he's texting me back.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I came here for. But yeah, I started studying when I was 30, so 3 years ago. And this kind of, it went its own way, and now I'm professionally doing it, something that I can't get away from. And every time I've been like, no, I'll go back to my career. No, I'll do something else. Tarot just goes, no, back study. And just the amount of people I've met and the readings I've done, it's just given me an understanding of people and myself that on such deep level. And it's an incredible tool that is misused for sure. And I think it's one of my missions as well, to kind of correct the narrative around tarot. Because as you know, like the nans and kind of like telling the gimmicky side of it, it's like the tiniest bit of using tarot. So that's how I've come to be a tarot reader.
Yeah, amazing. And what were you doing before? So you said you were trying to go back. So what were you doing before?
I was in retail. I was an area visual manager. I worked for Victoria's Secret for 4.5 years. I have experience in Paris. I got offered a job in Hermes, and at that point I was like, tarot or Hermes? And I chose tarot. And I think 3 years ago, if you've met me, I would have jumped over you to get that Hermes job.
Yeah.
I turned it down for tarot. And like part of me was like, oh, she's doing this.
I love that. I love hearing people's stories. And I've shared on my other podcast, because I was a school teacher and for 10 years, and then just left, quit
Yeah.
to do what I'm doing now. And I think it's good for other women, especially when you hit your 30s and there's kind of this expectation of, right, that's it, that's your life now until you retire. You can't do anything else, you can't quit, you can't follow a dream, you can't say yes to new opportunities because you're 30. That's for your 20s. So I think
And that's interesting you say that, because I'm doing some study around the spiritual awakening and the psychological awakening. And from 0 to 9, we're building our ego. We're very dependent on those around us. From 9 to 14, we're trying to push the boundaries a bit, 9 to 18 even. And then from then onwards, we're so obsessed with social acceptance. When we hit 30, it's the individuation process where we're actually breaking away. And some people at this point choose to break away, like us. Some people don't. And it doesn't mean that you go into wellness or spirituality, but it could be just changing career or starting your own business, or those people that leave the city and go set up a farm. It's like, no, there are other needs that I have that I want to fulfill, and it's not about job, house, pregnancy.
yeah yeah that's interesting. Well, that could be a whole new another podcast in itself.
It's very interesting. I'm actually launching a program in May just around that and how to navigate it, because when you are in the spiritual awakening, it's very intimidating, and at this point you can be quite impressionable, and this is where I'm trying to steer people away from, because I see it all the time, like, oh, I need to go and do plant medicine. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yes, yeah, I've lived, I've exactly what you've just said. You feel like you hear all these things and you listen to podcasts and you're like, oh, I need to do that, otherwise I'm not going to get to this point. But you definitely don't. You need to just follow your own path. And yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about tarot. Tell me, I actually don't think I know the origins of tarot. I've maybe Googled it before, but yeah, where does it come from?
Well, so Alexandria back in the day in the ancient world was the kind of intellectual capital of the world, and people from all over the world would come together, but they couldn't communicate because they don't speak the same language. So if I say to you, picture a tree, you can picture a tree, right? If I say to you, picture a house, so they would communicate through images. But each image as well would have a deeper meaning, because you're taking, Western wisdom, you're taking Eastern wisdom, you're taking Middle Eastern wisdom, or you're taking it all in. So fundamentally, people say that tarot started in Alexandria in Egypt. Then when Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria burnt down, the capital moved to Fez in Morocco, which is a very, very, very deeply spiritual and knowledgeable place. And then it seeped into Spain through the Moors, into France and Italy, and that's how it grew. And in France and Italy, it's known as the tarocchi. It's actually known as a game. But it's just, there's so many deviances, because, a part of it got lost to the gypsy culture, and that's where we get the fortune telling. I'm not saying that anything about gypsies aren't, I've read for them recently, and they're incredibly spiritually tuned people. But it's just how it's been used. It's just gotten into the wrong hands sometimes. And like with every spiritual practice, if it gets into the wrong hands, it taints. And we see this with the Catholic Church. We see this with, some unfortunate events around the world. But that's how the origins, the whole idea is knowledge, and it's philosophy, it's science, it's spirituality, it's maths, it's a lot of things packed into little cards. And it's about visualizing your thoughts. It's not about me telling you what to think. It's like, okay, what does this mean to you? Like, I'm holding up the sun card now, and if you see this, automatically what comes to your head? It's just having your thoughts on paper and being able to reflect yourself back to yourself. And this is why it's called the sacred mirror.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I must admit then I kind of had this fortune teller, what is it? Oh, picky black.
Yeah.
And I think a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I do know better than that, but you still have this sort of stereotypical, and none of the tarot readers that I've been to look like the Romy gypsy. But even still, you close your eyes and that's what you see. So how did it get sort of this stereotype, this bad reputation with people who are not so in the spiritual circles and the wellness industry?
And the church, simple as. Yeah,
Yeah.
so when we look at any organized religion, it's dogmatic thinking. And I'm a woman of great faith. Like I have huge faith in God, and I'm not blowing off the church in any way, shape,
Mm.
or form. But when it gets into the wrong hands, and you're told something over and over it's bad, then you're going to believe it. And tarot, and what I study, Kabbalah, it really supports and encourages free thinking. So if I say to you something you don't agree, you have every single right to not agree with me. But back in the day, you were not allowed to disagree with the church. It was heresy. So this is how tarot and astrology went underground. And there are great scientists during the Reformation, and the Renaissance who were into tarot and astrology as well, but weren't able to use it. And even Carl Jung was a user of tarot and astrology,
Oh,
because it's
wow.
the macro and the micro. It's the logos, it's within the soul. So
Yeah.
it's just those things that it hasn't had its proper time, and
Yes. Yeah. And
that's
do
kind
you think its time is coming? Do you think people are
of.
turning, changing their mind and looking at tarot from different eyes?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like with all my clients and who I work with, and once they break the barrier of fortune telling, then they start to use tarot correctly for problem
Mhm.
solving, manifestation, processing, understanding themselves, which again is very Jungian. And using these tools as a way of self-development and not as a way of handing power over to somebody else, because that's not good at all. And like the way I read tarot is I ask you more questions, so it's kind of therapeutic in a way. Like
Yeah.
I'm like people like I still get people be like, no, tell my fortune. I'm like, I'm not doing that because why? Like
Yeah.
that's for you to decide, not me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is, I bet you probably get a lot of people that just want to know, like, am I going to get married? Am I going to have babies? Like, am I going
Yeah,
to get the house, the money? Am I going to be successful? It's those kind of questions that are sort of built in with, I'm going to see a tarot reader because I'm going through a bad time,
yeah. And
generally. With, yeah.
like that's when we don't think about the marriage of the kids. What we do then is look at that bad time and we think about how we can navigate it, and what we're learning from it. Because
Yeah.
yes, your soul knows what it wants, and that can be a marriage, kids, baby. It doesn't matter what it wants. It's how we get there. And when we're in those times of desperation and fear, it's how we get through that that's more important, because you don't want that to leave any emotional scars. What you want is to be like, okay, I understand why this has happened, and now the choices I make from here are important to get me to that place of marriage, kids, and babies.
Yeah. And how does it fit in with it spiritually then? What's the spiritual significance?
Well, it's the divination, it's intuition.
Yeah.
So, like when I'm reading the cards, I know nothing about you. And the
Yeah.
difference between tarot and therapy is that therapy, there's two guards up. There's you, there's me, and I'm subjective to what you tell me. So I can only respond to what you tell me. But with tarot, we're breaking down those barriers and we're getting to the soul. We're getting to what the soul and the psyche wants more than anything else. So it's a
Yeah.
very, very spiritual practice, because psyche is actually the Greek word for soul. So we're really like bringing it down to who you truly are at an essence. And it's not like spirituality for me isn't a crystal or a sage, or it's who you are as
Yeah.
at source, and we're bringing that out, and that's a life of fulfillment.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find then when your clients come to you that a lot of them do come with the misconception, but then leave with this new understanding? Yeah, that's really good. And I think as well, like the spiritual, like you say, spirituality isn't just like I've got my crystals here, and it's not just about, oh, I carry crystals in my bra, I'm really spiritual. it's and I think that's where at the moment there's a lot of
Yeah.
sort of, you see it in magazines and you see it online, and yes, you might carry crystals in your bra and you might have tarot cards, but
Yeah.
how is that how is that sort of embedded into your life, into your beliefs, how you live your day? Or is it just a badge of, oh, I'm a cool girl because I've
Yeah.
got crystals in my bra? And I do think there's kind of there's a fine line at the moment, isn't there, between
Yeah, and like I at one point was dependent, and like ironically I now work with tarot, but like I don't have crystals.
yeah,
I'm gifted loads of crystals, and I it's they're beautiful and they are representation. Like for me it's like wine or like my phone. They're beautiful things that I like to have. But the most powerful spiritual tools is a pen and paper and a bit of
Yeah.
writing. Bit of faith. I think what we're trying to do is kind of like see faith, like the crystal represents
Yes. Yeah.
rose
Yeah.
quartz means I'm going to have love, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm wearing, you know, tourmaline. For me, that's a symbol of self-protection. When I see it, I'm reminded, yeah, protect myself, protect my energy. And that's the signal within. And that's a
Yeah.
choice we can make.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, like certain people, like, and I know when people are getting too dependent on tarot, because then I'm like, right, I'm gonna cut you off, speak to you in a few months, make a few decisions, and come back. But yeah, it's not healthy to be overly dependent on somebody else.
Yes, yeah, totally, totally. Imagine like what is it? Tarot Anonymous instead of AA. Like, hi, my name's Joanne, and I'm addicted to tarot.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it can the same with, and like you know when you pull a card, and I have tarot cards and my oracle cards in the morning, and sometimes I do feel like, right, this is part of my routine and I'll meditate, but then some mornings I'm like, no, I'm not going to pull, because like you say, I feel like then it's sort of then in my mind, and sometimes is that telling me, not
Fantasy.
telling, yeah, I'm like, right, okay, the card says this, so this means I'm going to do
That's
this.
going,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Move away from prediction, because if I say to you, you're going to get pregnant, you know, it's okay, fine. Like the odds, if you're in a marriage and your relationship, the odds are probably in your favor here. But it's those planting seeds. I mean, sometimes it can be used for really good ways. Like, am I going to get the job? And the cards are very much yes. Then I think
yeah,
there's a bit of validation and relaxation. But if someone's pushing for something and they don't get it, and this is why I'm like, yeah, but tarot's not about prediction. Tarot's about
yeah,
insight. Tarot
yeah,
is about knowing yourself on a deeper level for you then to predict your own future and manifest that. That's
yeah,
it's again, I'm not giving you the pregnancy. I'm not giving you the job.
yeah,
You are.
yeah, yeah. And how do you use? I know that a lot of people listen to the podcast. Do follow like law of attraction, and they are trying to manifest. So how can it help when you're trying to manifest? How would you?
I just ask myself how. So how do I do this? How do I do that? What do I need to know? What do I need
Yeah,
to do? So these are the questions I would ask to
yeah,
do. So how do I become a professional tarot reader? I follow that.
yeah,
It's it's the how. It's always going to be in the how. And there's an amazing card, justice. And if you don't get something, it's the appropriate outcome because there was a hole in your knowledge. And I love that, because sometimes when we don't get something, we blame ourselves and we think
mm,
there's something wrong with us. And the tarot's like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You just had a hole in your knowledge. You just didn't know something.
yeah,
It's fine. Like, you know,
yeah,
or when relationships break down, a lot of women will blame themselves, and then the Two of Cups tells me, no, your man was here to teach you something, and you need to
yeah,
take those. Greater love is coming, but again,
yeah,
choice.
yeah. I love that. I love that. Especially the, you know, the this is one thing that I sort of took from a past relationship. For years I was holding on to, oh my god, he was this, he was that, and like now that I'm older and it's a few years later, like I'm totally like, right, I learned from that. It was not the best, but I was really trying to control and be in charge and change and taking on this mother role, which then had a rebellion. And like at the time, I was like, I was right. I was right. I was trying to do the right thing and he was wrong. But now I learned a lesson that you cannot fit a square peg into a circle hole, if that's the right saying. And that's what I was trying to do for all of those years. And it's just so refreshing to have that, and through tarot just being able, it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
and
sorry,
the
so
release the
yeah,
release of
it's
that
really, and
thing.
you know, I get a lot of girls who get love readings, and then they'll go to somebody else and get a love reading, and they'll be like, "But I got the Two of Cups, and Two of Cups is like love," and I'm like, "No, the lovers is love. The lovers, they're naked because they're exposed to each other. It's not nothing got to do with
Yeah,
intimacy. It's your mental and emotional world that you've
yeah,
opened up, nothing to hide, and you love each other." But the Two of Cups is this card where there's two people facing each other and they're fully clothed because they're still holding something back from each other, and it's karmic, and it means that you're going to learn things. And I have like a little pet peeve when readers only read with positive cards. because that means that you're setting people up to fail, because the cards are half light, half shadow, you know, and everything is half light, half shadow.
Yeah.
You are thinking, but he loves me and he loves me, and this reader told me. It's like, does he really though? Like,
Yeah.
let's strip it
Yeah.
fully back. Let's see it
So
for what.
when you say the bad cards, is
Yeah.
that like the death? The death card just came into my head. So some readers take those out. Or
Sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, also decks that you can get that are highly decorated, and they're just really beautiful imagery, like oracle cards. The
Yeah.
oracle cards are fine because they're just messages, but there's tarot decks where they've taken out the kind of baddies to make it less scary. I get it. But the death card is actually a fantastic card. I mean, it's linked to sex, it's linked to reproduction, and with health, I'm always like, if you see death, it means detox. Get on that detox, girl. You know, cut out the drink for a while. You know, it's the end of something.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily bad. The devil doesn't exist, actually. The devil is a card, but when you think about it, the symbology of the devil is a man with horns and wings and the feet of a horse. Does that actually exist? No, it doesn't. So fear doesn't exist. So it's
Yeah.
like telling you all of these things, but people see it, they're like, oh my God, the death card. And I'm like, girl, you're going to get the ride of your life. Go enjoy. Oh, I hope I can say that on your.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that can stay. That can stay. That can stay. So, tarot and wellness then. So, tell me a little bit. Again, this was a little conversation that we had before, and this is brand new information to me. I didn't know how. I didn't know that you could use tarot for your health, your wellness, even your hormones, your cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, tell
So
me
I'll
about that.
start talking you through. So I'm going to hold up the Ace of Wands, and the Wands energy in the tarot is your literal energy, your physical energy. And sometimes within the reading, I'll see certain cards, and I'm like, this girl's energy is down, and we'll talk about that. I'm like, okay, so why is your energy down? And it's usually overworked, overstressed, not eating properly, cortisol through the roof.
Mm.
And then when we look at the moon card, it's a deeper esoteric meaning of the subconscious mind, and we know within the subconscious it operates everything from breathing, the heartbeat, to your hormones going through your body, etc. So when these cards come up, it's like, okay, how's your sleep? You know, what is your cortisol level like? Sometimes I tell women to go get their bloods checked. So I'm like, there's a gap. There's
Yeah.
and I had a client, you know, recently where there was insulin problems, and obviously I'm not a doctor and I'm not telling you this, but I'm like, this is a signal to go check your insulin. This is a signal to go check your hormone levels. Are you eating enough protein? And I can tell when women are not eating enough protein because it's like fuzzy wuzzy across the face, you know, and it's like, oh, but I'm trying this diet, I'm trying that diet. But yes, but how are you supplement, like, you know, and this is when we get to the strength card when I hold it up here. This is the nervous system. So now we have the brain that's attached to the nervous system that's sending signals throughout the body. And if you're not healthy and you're telling your body, I'm going to deprive you, your body just goes into overdrive and it doesn't have the energy. Like cycles as well. The high priestess is, you know, the feminine is the uterus. So we look at periods as well and cycling and making sure that you're on track every month. And if you're not, then why? And we start to explore a bit deeper. But it's just, as you know, like these problems are so common, and like we can't tell what's happening in our inside
Yeah.
ourselves because I can't open myself up and be like, oh,
Yeah.
I need to get some more protein there. You know, but if the tarot can be used to kind of signal to us, okay, maybe I need to lay off the carbs or I need to go on a
Mm.
detox. And interestingly enough, you know, with detox, the Arab world has the lowest rates of cancer in the world because every year they do one thing for 1 month, and that's fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is we're in the middle of Ramadan now. What are we? Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
So it's and they do that lined up to the
Wow.
New Year, so they're purging, and it's a great thing to do. But it's also, you know, when I think to my clients and I say to my clients, like, okay, there's so much happening on the internet around diet and self care, which is
Yeah.
great when you want this information. But what is your body saying to you that it needs?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I speak to so many of my clients, and I'm just they. I just I feel like I'm always saying tuning in, and the way that I do that is I just close my eyes, and it's as women we're highly intuitive anyway. So oh gosh, imagine the world if every woman just knew that they're highly intuitive and you can actually use tarot to sort of help to secure or tell you where you need to put your attention.
Mhm.
And like you said with diets,
Oh
you
God.
know, I think every single woman is guilty of flicking through now social media. In the past it was magazines. You'd
Yeah.
see a woman with a six pack and, oh, I'm going to do that diet then for the next 6 months, and just not having any knowledge of, well,
Mhm.
where's your body at now? You know, we're not all built to have a six pack, not all, you know, having this understanding of
Yeah.
the way that your body works. And just, yeah, the world would be, oh, I could talk forever about that, but I won't, because it's not.
No, but I love that you said that about we're not all built to have a six pack, and like that's epigenetics. And if we
Yeah,
go to generational stuff, like where you're born and where you, the food system around you is really, really important.
yeah,
And
yeah,
our like a whole system of don't eat from that's not from your land. So there's no point me following a vegetarian Indian diet, for example, because I'm
yeah,
not on that land. So for me, it's
yeah,
meat.
yeah,
Keep it simple. Like go back to who you truly are, and your
yeah.
body.
Yeah, and your body, because I say it all the time in yoga, obviously, you know, you could be on a yoga mat. And I know when I first started yoga, before I was teaching, I'd look at people and think, oh my God, like, I want to do the splits. I want to do flat pancake and all of these. I would be, my ego was like, you need to get into these poses. And it totally took the
Fun.
love of yoga for a while, and I was like really obsessed until I took a step back and I stopped all of that. I didn't talk to anyone after class. I'd just take myself home, because just having that understanding of, well, my hips might not ever be able to do that. My skeleton is completely different to hers. Like, where is she from? Is she European? Because our hips are not as open as, you know,
Yeah.
from other, and just having that understanding of the same with your diet. And you know, we all look at this person that was shown of, this is a woman and you all can be like that, and
It doesn't work. It makes
it's
absolutely
really not.
you zoom out of that. And like the diet thing as well, like I just sometimes I see women who are forcing veganism on themselves, and I'm like, babe, you're starved, you're
Yeah,
hungry, you
yeah,
need complex carbs, you need an egg, like come on, like. But they're like,
yeah,
no, 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 the data says. And I'm like, no, what does your body say?
yeah, yeah. And um it is just a vicious circle. And hopefully through women tuning in,
Mhm.
using their intuition, turning to things like tarot, that isn't multi social media, that it's coming from within. So
Mhm.
with tarot, you're showing women like, this is coming from you. You're just the one with the cards and the knowledge and the
Exactly.
intuition. Show them that.
Reading it
Yeah,
to you, but I'm going to ask you questions. And how can we get you calm again? How can we get you back in touch with your body? How can we get your cycles? Because it's not normal for your cycles to not be regular. Your body
yeah,
was born perfect, but we kind of play around with it and in a way that's sometimes quite damaging. And like it's
yeah,
really improved my body image as well, because I went to places with my body. Like I was 100 kg and like, and now I'm not, but it's now I guide myself and I'm like, hold on, what does my body need today?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I had another thought then when you were talking, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, back to the cycles. And I think, just like you said, having not having regular cycles and just understanding that. And I speak to a lot of, oh, it's just normal. Like, no, it's not normal to suffer. Like, you have your 28-day cycle. Those 28 days should be pleasurable. You should be enjoying life. It shouldn't be that you're very angry for a week and then you're in pain for a week and you can't eat for a week and then you have a few days of joy, and just putting this label on, oh, because I'm a woman. Like,
Suffer
it's
because
not. It's
absolutely no.
it's not. Oh, that's, I love that. I just love, I have learned something today I really didn't know. Next time I have a client, I'm going to say, right, go and get your tarot cards done.
Yes.
So when we're talking about the cycle, because then at least
Yeah.
they've got the knowledge from
Mhm.
everywhere. And I know doctors are amazing, but sometimes even doctors are very quick to just offer the contraceptive pill, like mask it. Yeah, take this, it's okay, it's going
Yeah.
to stop
Yeah.
all of those. And again, it's just a lack of understanding of women's cycles, the way it's just a quick fix. And I think these processes that we've just spoken about, how it gives women that ownership of my body, my rules. Like,
It's great. And like, you know, contraception is great because it gives women a choice, and like we're very lucky that we have choice, but we never look to the consequences of everything. And
Mm.
like, this is why I'm kind of against microdosing and plant medicine and overuse of these things. I'm like, hold on a sec, but what's going to happen afterwards? Let's
Yeah.
just pull back a bit, let's not kind of go, we get excited and we jump into
Yeah.
these things. And again, there's so many positives in contraception, but the right ones for you. And I think that's what's being missed. And again, it's like the long-term impact of hormonal dysregulation. That's not natural.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's one of the best decisions I ever made was coming off any kind of contraception. And I feel like from the age of maybe I was even 17, 18 till I was 24, I feel like I was a different person. Like I don't know
Yeah.
who was I then. Like
And, and that's the hormone system. And like we're driven by our hormones. So kind of getting them to the right place will really help us in terms of our health as well. I mean,
yeah,
how we feel certain parts of our cycles, it's all hormonal.
yeah,
And
yeah,
we need to get these to a very, very healthy place. And we're adrenally fatigued.
yeah, yeah,
We're low in this and high in that. And that has a consequence.
yeah, totally. Totally. Oh, I feel like we could just do a whole podcast on tarot and cycles and hormones, and yeah, maybe we can come back and do another podcast. Okay, so I keep forgetting my questions. I had one more question then. Oh yeah, so if someone was to reach out and want to see a tarot, obviously I'm going to put all your details in the show notes, but what would be your red flags for, so if someone's listening to this and they're not in Dubai, or they sort of know of tarots in their area, what are red flags, green flags, what would you go for, avoid?
Red flags is someone that is very pushy and like it's very much like you need a reading. Red flag is when they take the power away from you and don't give you any comfort. A red flag for me is somebody again just the positive cards, and are very much red flag's a man, to be honest. I just men aren't as naturally intuitive, no
Yeah,
fault of their own, and they have different. I think a man is a teacher and a guide, but he's not an intuitive.
yeah,
And that's a bigger conversation. But a red flag as well is someone that, again, is just telling you what you want to hear, and it's very vague. Oh, you'll have 3 kids in 5 years. I mean, it's when it's gimmicky. A green
yeah,
flag is someone that doesn't necessarily act like someone is spiritual. A green flag is someone that is very self-reflective and reflective and supports you in your journey, knows when there's limits, and so like when to refer you to a therapist, when to refer you to a doctor.
yeah,
Yeah, and that you just feel a bit of a connection with and you feel kind of natural. A green flag is someone I think who, yeah, just doesn't use it for a sense of power. I think that's
yeah,
pretty, yeah.
yeah. And even again, just like a mic drop there as well, like having, I never even thought of a tarot reader, if you pick up that, oh, you need a counselor, you need a therapist, you need a
Yeah,
doctor, even just having,
yeah, free,
I'm guessing, yeah, if
free potential
someone's
is,
constantly coming to you,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and it's
yeah,
like, okay, now you need professional help. It's not
yeah,
spiritual help, it's actually psychological or physical health that you need,
yeah,
and when you lead them to that, because yes, we can do a lot of healing within our mind, but we need to know the tools to do so, and
yeah,
me telling you that it's going to be okay isn't going to help you. You need to kind of dig deep here.
yeah, amazing. Oh God, thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it. I could talk to you for ages,
Oh, thank you.
forever. Um, we'll definitely get back together and do a talk just on like the
Yeah,
health, the wellness, the
yeah.
cycles. So yeah, and thank you very much. Is there any last words you'd like to leave?
No, I'm
Uh,
grateful for this opportunity and for me to kind of change the narrative around tarot. It's like it's a job. I'm happy that I do this. It's an incredible tool, and I just want more people to see the value of it and how it just gets you more in alignment with yourself, and it's nothing got to do with the outside world. It's all inside of you already.
Yeah, amazing. So I will put your Insta and everything down in the show notes.
Okay.
What is your Instagram? Just tell everyone.
So you can find me at Susan_Nora_Tarot. So at Susan Nora Tarot.
Yes, perfect. And yeah, I will put everything in and websites and stuff in the notes. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you soon.
And that's it today, everybody. I hope you have a lovely week, and I'll see you again next week. Don't forget, 5 stars, download, tell your friends. You're amazing.